Okay, I think we're live.
Beautiful.
Okay, so thanks for setting this up, Doris. And I think we're talking about how we first came to personal development, right?
Right. So, well, first we're going to be doing these chats just to talk about different subjects that interest both of us and it might interest others. And we decided to call it Coffee Chat. And I was thinking that, yeah, it would be a great start to just talk about how we even got into the personal development. So
Absolutely.
I'll go first, and then you go. So personal development certainly didn't exist in my family or as many people also. And 25, yeah, my baby Roxanne was about 3 or 4, and I was at a girlfriend's house, and I was like on and off welfare, single mother, working minimum wage jobs. I mean, it's like my reality was quite poor, and I come from a background of welfare, third generation, and so forth. So life, and there was no there was no idea really what personal development was, and that you could change your life was like, right, not. So I was at my girlfriend's house, and her mother had lent her this book that my friend was not interested in reading. And she had read The Seat of the Soul with Gary Zukav. It was really big at that time. We're talking the 80s here, right? And the book was called Look In, Look Out, Look Above, an athletic trainer. Completely changed her life from being overweight and out of touch, out of connection with her spirituality, and all of these issues. Anyways, I read the book, and it was a good book, but not necessarily because of such amazing content or anything. It was just the first time in my life that it occurred to me that I could change my life. At that moment, it never occurred to me. And then my next book was the monumental book of my life, was Awaken the Giant by Anthony Robbins, right? The king. So I got lucky that I found him pretty darn quick. And to this day, I still reread passages. If there is such a thing, I think it is the Bible of the personal development world, in my opinion. And that literally changed my life. And then, within a couple of years, I went back to school and welfare. Anyways, my career took off, and 6 figures within 5 years, the whole bit. But that's really where it started. And I think what really kept me on the track was I took the one thing that he talks about a lot in the book, and he repeatedly says it, is modeling, right? Modeling other people.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're poor, I still wasn't very rich, so it's not like I could start hanging out with, mentors and things like that. But I did it the way he did it. I read, and I personally committed to reading 3-4 books a week.
Nothing
and
wrong
I
with
did
good
that
old-fashioned reading.
So I did that, like, I think for like the first 5 years. Within that time, I read 3 to 4 books regularly every single week. Now it's more like 3 to 4 books a month. But yeah, and I certainly have the library to show for it.
Yeah.
But that allowed me to expand my knowledge at a low cost. It's like whenever I'm on a discovery call with a client or something, and just can't work for what they want, I will always suggest to them a couple of books, because books can change your life, and it's really the beginning of it. So that's how I got into personal development, and I think everybody should. And the whole idea, personally developing, I think, is the point of why we're here, to become better in the end.
I agree.
So you tell me, my dear, how did you get into personal development?
I will. I'll tell you. But first, I just wanted to ask, have you mentioned Tony Robbins' books, which is a classic one, Awaken the Giant Within. Have you got another favorite? I mean, I know there are so many excellent personal development books, but if you could say perhaps the top 3 that you would recommend to somebody, what would they be?
Right. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. That was very powerful in the sense that it never really occurred to me the now, the past and the future are illusions, right? You know, and that the power, the only power that we have is in the now, and that from a theory to actually living that. I think that book was very well written and very way. The next one, I think it would be The Power of Intention by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Okay. Very much about, I loved that book. Monitoring your intention towards things and how that affects, it really affects the flow of how things flow around you. Your intention gives off a vibration, and it sets off the attraction, and it sets off what actually occurs in our lives. So I think that would definitely be the top two. I mean, Awaken the Giant is really the one that, you know, created the most change in my life. Yeah, I'm looking over here at my library.
I did put you on the spot a little bit, and I know there are so many.
It's all good. I guess after that, it would be The Drama of the Gifted Child. For my personal history, illuminating as to what had occurred in my childhood and how to not only understand it better, but put a better label on it, right? And that was very powerful. So anybody who's had a traumatic childhood would definitely benefit from reading that. And I guess lately would be Inner Bonding, but that going to Loving What Is by Kate Byron. I think I could go on forever.
Yeah. Inner Bonding, you turned me onto that book, and I've just been reading it, and I absolutely love it. It's so powerful. It's going to be a life changer, I can tell. So I'm super excited about that one for sure. And
absolutely. Well, big shout out to my coach Rebecca Matthias, who turned me on to it. So it is life changing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. I would agree with that. I'd recommend, you know, anyone to read that one, but particularly, you know, anyone who kind of struggles with any sort of anxiety or self-esteem issues, or, you know, feeling not enough, which I think we all do to some level, right? And so just very briefly, the book is really about parenting your inner child. But one thing which you said, and is really, you know, hit home with me as well, is that actually, when we do this, we become more productive, because a lot of people feel like they haven't got time for this kind of thing, right? I can be a bit like that. But actually, when you do this, it's just a game changer in terms of how you show up in the world and productivity. And, you know, everything just flows, I think, when you do this process.
You mean like putting time to personal development?
Well, particularly to the process in this book, I meant, but yes, in general, putting time to personal development.
Right. Well, we're going to have that conversation anyways internally. We should probably do a session entirely on that to discuss our take off that book for sure. But for personal development, you know, I've had people also tell me, you know, they don't have time for that, you know, and it's like, but the thing is, Tony Robbins teaches to use net time, which is no extra time. Mm. So, you know, when you're walking, when you're grocery shopping, you know, to pop in an audio, when, you know, and to find those moments so that you can take advantage of it. If we really pay attention to our lives, we can find lots of net time where we can fit in some personal development.
Right, and I would say make time. It's you know, it's essential. It's not an extravagance. It's not for me. It's not an add-on thing. It's something that I have to do to stay sane and to stay happy, to be successful, and to create the life I want. It's as simple as that.
Beautiful. So how did you get into personal development?
Okay, yeah, great. So it was also through a book. So that's interesting. It was actually very young. When I was a teenager, about 12 years old, I lost my stepfather, who was actually my father as far as I was concerned, because he was the one who brought me up and was there for me. And we sadly lost him when I was 12, which was a really hard time. And my mum was bringing me up. It was just her. She was working multiple jobs to bring the money in, and I also came from a poor background, didn't have a lot of money, so I actually became quite depressed at that time, and I was finding school very difficult. I'd just gone to a new secondary school, was finding it very, very hard, and didn't want to engage, really. I just wanted to withdraw and not engage in life. And my mum actually got me this book, and I can picture it today, and it was called Being Happy. And I can't remember exactly who it was by, Andrew somebody or other, but it was a big book, and it had a big colourful cover, and I read it. It was the guy who wrote it was a cartoonist as well, so he did all these fabulous illustrations in the book, and it was just about positive thinking. But that was my first ever introduction to the whole idea of kind of positive thinking and self-development, and I loved that book. It didn't change everything. I still had certain issues that I had to work with. It was still a tough time, but it made such a difference, and I was able to cope. And it just was the first time that I'd ever got the idea that there was another way of doing things or another way of looking at life. And that sparked the curiosity. And then I went from there. So I think a few years later, I got the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I have to say, not actually one of my favourite books. I've tried to read it several times since, and I've never actually got all the way through. So it's just a personal thing. I know some people love it. But it really sparked that interest. And from there, and then I started to look into the law of attraction. And then I knew that I hated kind of going to work and doing a 9-to-5 like normal people. So I started exploring different ways, got into internet marketing, the law of attraction, and it just went from there. But it all started with that one book.
Usually is, and that spark is what really made the difference, right? That book created that spark for you. It created that spark for me. And, maybe this video, a person can follow upon it and never heard of personal development, and it begins their journey into and so forth. So do you want to do your top 3 in books then?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are so many, it's kind of hard to say, but I'm going to say the top 3 that I'm really into right now. And so I have to also go with Inner Bonding as well, because I've started reading that and it's just a game changer. There's another one right now. I'm looking around because I had it here, but it's not here. It's I think it's 5 Keys to the Spiritual Laws. It's one I'd never heard of. No, it's not. It's A Little Light on the Spiritual Laws. That's it. And it's one I'd never heard of, and I just came across it in a coffee shop the other day, sitting on a shelf. It's quite an old book, and something just told me to pick it up, and I started reading it, and it's really, really good, and it goes into all the different universal laws. I think there are like 36 of them or something in this book, but it's just fascinating. It's a fascinating read and really brings together like a lot of the stuff that we've studied in various programs and things. So I'm enjoying that one. And then on a slightly more practical level, there's one called The Slight Edge, which is just fantastic. It's brilliant. It's about what you do every day. It's habits basically, but it's the power of your habits, and it's so easy to do and it's so easy not to do, right? So the little things like taking a walk around the block, having green juice, small things, but it's so easy to do them and it's so easy not to do them. And the choice that you make again and again, that's going to create your life. And it's about how you're either on a positive upward trajectory, which won't happen tomorrow. It's not like a big leap type of thing. It's over time. Or you're on a downward trajectory, but there's no in between. You're either going down in any area or you're going up. And it's just about how actually you don't have to take these massive, big, leaps or actions. You can just do a little bit every day And if you keep doing it, it will get you to where you want to go. And he talks about how people fail because they stop too soon. They don't see the results quickly, and so they give up. But he says, what got you to, say you're working on money and you've been doing something and it's got you out of debt, and you're doing all right, but you're not quite where you want to be. He says, what got you to that all right place, if you keep doing it, it will get you to wealthy. There's no big, amazing thing you have to do. But what a lot of people do is they get to that all right place, and then they're like, oh, and they sort of lose focus, lose attention, stop doing the little things. And then before they know it, they've slid back down again. And he says a lot of people just cycle like that over and over through their lives.
Yeah, no, I certainly have a lot of areas of my life where I do that. It reminds me of something that else that Tony Robbins also says about, it's the consistent little things that you do that determine your success. It's not the big things. Yeah. It's the consistent little things.
Yeah, and that's
wow.
so
well, this has been a great
because I think both you and I have done that whole thing of taking a huge leap and, you know, various things. So I think it's really very useful, actually.
Absolutely. So it's been a great chat. I think we're almost at time for that. Let's invite people to tell us their story of how they got into personal development.
Yes, please. And, I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear that. So people can comment, right, underneath the video.
Yeah, that will be great. All right. Well, Coffee Chat with Julie. Thank you. It has been awesome as usual.
It's so nice to talk to you. And we're doing these every Monday, right? Probably a little bit earlier, I think, but they're going to be every Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, have a fabulous day.
All right. Bye for now, everybody. Bye to Julie.
Bye, Doris. Bye-bye.